It is the last day of March. This is Herb Stevens, the skiing weatherman for SnoCountry.com. And it's time to take a look at the weather for the next 2 to 3 weeks to see whether or not we can stretch out this season. As always, the report's brought to you by UVEX Sports. And the headlines, well, there's some snow on the way for Easter weekend in parts of the Northeast. But a major pattern change is on the horizon. Already we've seen a good number of smaller ski areas start to close up shop for the year, and others will be following suit after Easter weekend. But if you're hardcore like I am, you're looking to make some turns in April, I think the prospects are pretty good, at least through mid-month in the Northeast. And by Northeast, I'm talking New York State and northern New England on up into Quebec. Where, although it is going to turn milder at times, finally, we are also going to be susceptible to shots of colder air from time to time in this part of the country and in adjacent Canada, and that means some late-season snow as well, and I'll explain all of that coming up shortly. The main thrust of today's snow is across Pennsylvania. We have an Alberta clipper that is over central Ohio, and the track of this storm is going to be about like that, and the shield of snow is across northern and central Pennsylvania. The Poconos look to be the area that stands to benefit from this, with 3 or 4 inches of snow probably by the end of the day this evening at Jack Frost. But this system is going to miss most of New York and New England. Some of the southern Catskill areas, most of which I believe have closed, could get a little bit of light snow from this. There's the clipper this afternoon. It'll be down here by the panhandle of West Virginia and out here in Garrett County, Maryland. The snow shield will run roughly north of Interstate 80, and again, it'll skirt down across New York City and Long Island, maybe graze southern New England, but by and large, this snow is going to avoid the ski areas of the Northeast. It did produce a little bit of snow in upper Michigan in the last 24 hours, and another clipper that's already off the map laid down 3 to 6 inches of snow across far northern New York, northern New England, and up into Quebec by Mount Sutton, for example. But Whiteface, Jay Peak, Bretton Woods, they all picked up some snow in the last 24 hours just to keep the surfaces fresh. 5,000. Oh, before I get on to the 5,000-foot temperatures, in this jet stream map, I want you to notice that there are basically 2 large features, a western ridge and an eastern trough, and that's the way it's been set up all winter long. Now, if the 2 positions flip, and they are going to flip, we're going to see more of a trough in the west going forward and more of a ridge in the east. You would say, all right, well, it's just going to turn warm in the east, and that's the end of it. That's not the case, because at this time of year, the cold pools that support these troughs start to shrink, and that means the wavelengths between the ridges and the troughs start to shrink as well. So even though a trough is going to set up in the west and a ridge is going to set up in the middle of the country and over a good part of the east, we'll still have room for troughs to come down into the northeast over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and that will bring the risk or the threat and the promise of some late season snow, as well as some colder temperatures to sustain the snow that's on the slopes. Today's 5,000-foot temperatures, the 32-degree line, which is critical to determine rain versus snow. You can see it's just to the north of the low center. That center's going across Chesapeake Bay, but that means it will snow to the north of that track from the Poconos northeastward, as I say, to Metro New York and out over Long Island. Now, after a couple of nice days Wednesday and Thursday, and if you can get out and ski or ride tomorrow, Wednesday or Thursday, you should, because high pressure is going to bring a lot of sunshine and comfortable temperatures, cooler than normal but comfortable over the Northeast and over the Great Lakes as well. But then when the milder air, the high gets offshore late this week and the flow switches into the south, the milder air is going to bring moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico. It'll ride up over the dome of cold air at the surface, and we'll have some overrunning rain Thursday night into Friday, developing northeastward along the Appalachian mountain chain. The cold front is going to move offshore by Friday night, and then another wave of low pressure will form on that front and move up along the coast during the day on Saturday. So in places like northeastern Pennsylvania, the Catskills, up into the Adirondacks, certainly in the mountains of northern New England, while they're likely to see some rain on Friday, it's also likely that it's going to change over to snow on Saturday, with high pressure sitting here over northern Canada or southern Canada. Northerly winds at the low levels will help change the precipitation back over to snow. And I think that there is the promise of at least a moderate accumulation in the higher elevations. Springtime storms are always elevation dependent, but from the Adirondacks to the mountains of western Maine and up into southern Quebec, into the eastern townships, several inches of snow, and perhaps in some places double-digit snow is going to fall on Saturday, mostly above 1,500 feet. That looks like the primary snow level for this particular system. Sunday, this thing will be gone. And by the way, Saturday's 5,000-foot temperatures, you can see it'll be cold enough over the interior for the snow, although in the valleys, it'll probably be rain. But up in the mountains, it looks good for Saturday snow. Then a sunny day on Sunday, Easter Sunday. And if you can ski on Easter Sunday, that looks like the winner this weekend after the new snow falls in the mountains on Saturday. 7-day snowfall for the eastern part of the country. We've got two systems adding up here in Pennsylvania, the Clipper today and then what will develop late this week as the cold front moves through and the new low pulls up along the coast. And notice that this is the GFS model, and it's pretty bullish about the snowfall amounts in the mountains of New York and northern New England. Now, the Catskills and the Berkshires, you're going to have to get above 2,000 feet, I think, on Saturday to get all snow. Otherwise, you're looking at a mix of rain and snow. But even there, on the backside, as the colder air moves in and the storm pulls away, there'll be a couple of inches of snow, I think, later Saturday. The Canadian model is also bullish on the snow, but the main axis is up here a little further north. I tend to think that the spine of the greens and the whites and the Adirondacks are going to make out very well in this particular system. And then next week, as we start the new week, the high pressure center that brings sunshine on Sunday will move offshore, and it'll turn milder in the Northeast and also in the upper Midwest early next week. There's still some good skiing and riding to be had, by the way, in Wisconsin, Michigan, and also in northern Minnesota. Now, I've got this typhoon up here because old-time forecasters like me know that when you have a western-moving typhoon, 6 to 10 days later, you end up with an upper-level ridge over eastern North America. The 7-day Canadian Ensemble forecast for this would be next Tuesday suggests that this ridge down over the southeastern United States is going to build northward with a trough in the west. That means late snow coming to the western mountains. 10 days from now, the ridge still dominates, but with the trough out west also. But notice this little trough. This is that shortening wavelength phenomena, and this is going to bring some cooler air into the northeast and perhaps some snow 10 days down the road. 15 days from now, you notice another shortwave trough coming through the northeast, while we have a western trough, not particularly dominant at this time, with this ridge being beaten down temporarily in the southeast. So overall, this is how it breaks out for eastern interests in the upper Midwest. We're going to see a busy, changeable pattern in the next 10 days. Mountain snow in the northeast Saturday. I think the late snow opportunities are now further north, not Interstate 80 like I said last week. Now it's Interstate 90, but cold shots can still reach New York and New England into mid-April, so the prospects for skiing and riding for the next 2 to 3 weeks are still looking pretty good. Pick your spots. You might even get some fresh snow. That's it for now. This forecast for SnoCountry from the Skiing Weatherman has been brought to you by UVAC Sports. Enjoy your sliding.